first film we're going to look at tonight is Past Lives. So in South Korea, there is a young couple who are childhood sweethearts, Na Young and Hae Sung. And through various events, including the emigration of the parents to Canada, the two get split up and come back together many years later via a Skype call. Through a subsequent meeting, Nora, as she is now called, has been married to Arthur, and the childhood sweetheart turns up in New York and complications arise. Here's a clip.
Is he attractive?
I think so. He's really masculine in this way that I think is so Korean.
Are you attracted to him?
I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think so.
Emma, let's start with you. What did you make of Celine Song's debut film?
Well, I'm an emotional wreck at most films these days. It doesn't matter what happens, something will set me off. But
don't get me started with the Meg.
Look, wow,
octopus, the helicopter and the octopus.
You mock me. Brought a tear to my eye.
I do, yeah.
So I really enjoyed the way it was done, and I found it very impactful the way the relationship sort of evolved, and Nora and Arthur obviously married, and when that all comes about that her old sweetheart is coming to visit and they're having heart to heart, it wasn't just done to be cinematic. It felt very real, and I really loved the fact that I think it was in an interview somewhere that actually when they were like filming everything, they tried to keep people apart from each other so that Arthur and
Hae
Sung they actually met for the first time when they filmed that scene, and I believe that was the first cut as well. Like that was the first go round that we saw.
Yes.
And just like tried to have everyone keep their distance, so it was all very new and everyone was getting to know each other, and I think that really did help a lot. It was very slow for me, and at the beginning I wasn't necessarily enjoying myself, but as it starts to ramp up, emotions are all over the place, and they're just trying to deal with everything. That's what I sunk in, and I was sold. It really caught me at that point.
Yeah. I don't know whether the interview you heard was the one on the Commode and Mayo take with Celine Song. But if you've not heard that, as we've talked about before, Commode and Mayo have a struggling little podcast called Take that needs your support. But they have a fantastic interview with Celine Song, and she recounted that fact that this was the first meeting between the two actors in the room, so it was deliberately kind of hyped up to be a really important scene, so they were really nervous about it anyway. But she also said that this is actually based on the true event, that when she and her husband were married in New York, she had a visit from her childhood sweetheart from South Korea, I presume. So the whole film was written and based on this real life incident, and I think that really anchors the film as being so utterly real. Scott?
Similar feelings in a way. For me, I felt like I could easily break this film into 3 acts. So the first act, when they were kids, I thought that was really sweet. I liked the characters, just getting to know them. The two young child actors sort of played off really well with each other. Then we move forward 12 years when we get to the middle section, which I'll be honest, this is where I found it quite slow. And I know it was purposely done that way, and I totally appreciate why Celine Song paced it the way she did in this section. But for me personally, when I was sitting in the cinema, I was just thinking, come on, let's get going, or let something happen. It was just a little bit too slow for me, but I appreciate why other people would like this. However, in the third act, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. We get the scene that Emma was referring to in the bar, which I thought was extremely well written. While we mention about the 3 of them being at the bar, we find out earlier as well that the husband speaks a little bit of Korean, so he's getting little bits of words and phrases, but he can't put it in full context, which makes it just more awkward and heartbreaking, thinking he's sitting there wondering what they're saying and feeling maybe fears, jealousies, anxieties. And then there's another one where they're in bed having a conversation at night, and it just felt like it was going to a place that was so real, so profound in the writing as well. I think that scene could be speaking to couples all over the world and the sort of things that people think about when they're in a relationship. So I loved that side of it. I think the three main actors were all phenomenal in that final act. And for me, it's one of those where it built up to that ending. And I was thinking by the time it closed, although I didn't love that middle act personally, based on the third act alone, I think this could be a contender for some Oscars. And you guys will remember when we did our early Oscar predictions, I was the only one that mentioned Past Lives.
Waiting.
Yeah.
I was waiting for you to drag that one up, Scott.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm proud of that one. If it makes it. It might not, but I think it will.
Okay, very good. Andy?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really add anything to what Emma and Scott have said. I absolutely loved it. I was an emotional wreck by the end. For me, I didn't worry about the pacing at all in the middle section. I just felt the whole thing flowed beautifully, seamlessly through the years of these two characters' lives. The performances were terrific. I love the score as well. And this has gone in as, so far, in my top 3 of the year. Something absolutely incredible is going to have to come along to dislodge it from at least being in my top 5 of the year, because it's just a beautiful, lovely, wonderful film that I think embraces the human spirit and just sends you out with a smile. And I absolutely loved it. Can't really add anything to what's been said. Thoroughly enjoyed the seamless way I felt the film was put together in the 3 acts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree with all of you. Phenomenal film, and given this was the first feature by Celine Song, it's just extraordinary. I mean, just some really beautiful little physical things, like the amount of distance between the characters and the way that they embrace silence in the thing. And there's a wonderful point where the 2 young people leave for the last time, and Nora goes uphill, up the path, and Hai Sung basically stays the same level. And you think, what a wonderful metaphor in the film. And there's some wonderful camera blocking. The use of camera angles and so on is great. And that final 5 minutes of the film, maybe it's even 3 minutes of the film, no spoilers here, but I mean, if you pushed me for a recent film that had my favourite ending, it would probably be Sound of Metal for the last 2 or 3 minutes of that film. But this film, with that event that happens in there and the use of silence, and so it is tenser for me than any of the so-called action films, sorry, Meg lovers, that we've seen this year. I mean, I thought it was just an incredible, electric bit of cinema. So terrific. Yeah. Scores on the doors. Emma?
I've got like 3 scores written down. So I think I'm going to go straight down the middle and go with a 7.
7, okay. Scott?
Yeah, I feel like I'm maybe being a bit sniffy with this score, but I also went with a 7.
Okay. Andy?
I'm going with a 10. I couldn't find a single thing wrong with it. I loved every single frame.
I will also go with a 10 on this one. I think it's near cinema perfection. The only thing, and one of our colleagues in the Mark Commode Appreciation Society last night over the dinner mentioned this, and there's one shot right at the end of a person in a taxi that's added on the end of the film, which is possibly unnecessary, and there's like a perfect end to the film, and it's just, so that was the only thing which I hadn't kind of noted down in my review, but that's the only thing I could really criticize about the film. So that is a score of 34 divided by 4. This is going to be challenging. That's 8.5, I think, out of 10 for the Flickering Dreams score, making Past Lives a monumental. Get out there, folks, and see it at the cinema on the big screen, because it really is a good cinematic widescreen experience.